In this lesson, I'm going to show you how to play chords that might be sharp or flat. And really what we mean by this is normally when you're playing the very basic chords on a ukulele, the C, the G, the F, these are chords hopefully you've learned up to this point. And if you hadn't, you really should go and look at some of the more basic lessons to get these fundamental chords practiced and rehearsed so you really are comfortable with them. What I'm going to do now is show you how you can take those chord forms, the shape of the chord, and move it around the neck, which will allow you to take a chord and make it sharp or make it flat, change the note of the chord. Okay? So for example, let's start with the C chord. If we play a C chord like this, and I want to play a C sharp chord, this is how I can do it. I'm going to take this pattern on the strings. These are open strings, and I have one finger here, and I'm going to move the whole thing up one fret. So that means I got to move my finger up here one fret, but also I have to take this, what we call the nut of the guitar, and move all those notes up one fret. And we're going to do that by taking the first finger and barring it across all the frets. So now I have something that looks like this. So if I move that back down again, I've got the C. I take my finger off because I don't need it. But if I move it up a fret, I have a C sharp. Then I can move it up another fret and get to a D. D sharp. E. There's no E sharp. We just go straight to F. F sharp and G. So in this way, you can move any chord form, or most chord forms, you can move them around on the neck. So let's take a look at the next simplest chord, the F, like this. If I want to move that up a step, I have to bar across that first fret, and I have to put the same pattern. I'm not going to use the same fingers, but I'm going to create the same pattern relative to my first finger. Now that's an F sharp chord. If I scoot it back down, F, F sharp, G, then G sharp. And this is a really easy chord to play as a bar chord. So if you can combine, let's see, we have the C open like this, going to an F. Now let's see if we can do that same chord progression but barred. So I'm going to scoot up to, I'm doing the same thing but with different fingers in a different position. So this will take a little bit of time to get used to, or to think about, because if you're just learning how to play the uke and you're used to just the standard chords, it might take a second for this to make sense. I'm showing you how to play all these sharp chords, so the question is, how do you play a flat chord? Well, here's the good news. The good news is sharps and flats are oftentimes can be the same note. A flat note is a note that's just beneath, one fret lower than the regular note. So if this is a C, or let's say I'm playing C chord here, and this is a D chord like this. I've barred up two frets. I've gone to D, C sharp to D, C, C sharp, D. Now the C sharp chord that I was playing right here, it's also a D flat. It's the same chord. It's the same exact sound. We call it different depending on what other chords it's relative to. And that discussion of why that is beyond the scope of this lesson. But know this, a sharp note can also be a flat note. So a C sharp will be a D flat. So if we go up the scale, a D sharp is the same thing as an E flat. Now, the times when this is not true, and it can be a little confusing, is between E and F and B and C. There are no notes in between E and F. So there's no such thing as an E sharp. Well, technically there is, but for all practical purposes, there's no such thing as an E sharp. You would just call it an F. And by the same token, there's no such thing as an F flat. You would just call it an E. Now there's some esoteric cases where that might be true, but nothing you have to worry about now. Same thing with C and B. B is right next to C, so there's no B sharp and there's no C flat, okay? There can be a B flat and an A sharp, but there can't be a B sharp and a C flat. Those won't work together. So between C and B and E and F. Okay, if that isn't confusing enough, let's take a look at another chord. This is the G chord, depending on how you play it. If I wanted to play a G sharp, I can scoot this up, but how am I going to play that with this finger down here? You can do it like that, but it also, this chord form is the same as the F chord form. So really, if you know the the C form and the F form, you can play all of the major chords. Now, if we go into minor chords, this changes a little bit. So let's take a look at the A minor chord. It's another one of the most simplest chords to play. It's an A minor chord. If we wanted to play an A sharp minor chord, we're going to scoot this up. So I'm going to scoot the finger up and lay the bar across the frets here. This takes some strength, so it's hard to do at first. And I can go up and down the neck like that. The other minor chord that's easy to play is a D minor. This one's going to be a little trickier. If I scoot this up, I got to use my pinky, all of my fingers together. That's going to be a hard bar chord to learn how to play. So D, D sharp or E flat, E minor, there is no E sharp, we go straight to F minor, F sharp minor or G flat minor, same thing, G minor, G sharp minor, A flat minor, on and on and on. So with the C major chord and going up with the bar, F major chord, going up with the bar, the A minor, going up with the bar, and the D minor. Fundamentally, that will give you every major and minor chord possible. Now, you know, there's seventh chords and other fancier chords, but for major and minor chords, strictly major and minor, those 4 different chord shapes and using them with a bar gets you every chord on the neck, or every major and minor chord up and down the neck, every note that you can do, the sharps and the flats. So hopefully that's helpful. I know learning bar chords can be frustrating and difficult, so start out slow, start out maybe with the F. The F one's fairly easy. You can get some good pressure and build up the muscle here to play the bar chord. So there you go. That's how you play sharp and flat chords using the barring technique. We'll see you next time.